It was an awful scene on Thursday morning. Flames shot through the roof of First Lutheran Church on Washington Avenue. The building was completely destroyed. The parishioners watched in shock, and the cause of the fire is unknown.
When First Lutheran Church started burning Thursday morning,
it's not the building, it's all the things that are inside the building, the memories.
It looks like the old building is going to be a total loss.
No one believed it could be destroyed in hours.
Breaks my heart for the historic value that's lost.
Skyfox captured billowing smoke as firefighters from 4 departments tried to battle the flames.
As you can see, it was just too far gone and too much fire too soon.
By the time they got the call at 6:30, flames extended from the basement to the roof. The 90-year-old sanctuary was left in ruin.
I think I was a bit numb, and I still am. It seems a bit unreal.
The fire shattered stained glass windows and destroyed an irreplaceable Brumbaugh organ.
You can replace the building, but you can't replace the memories.
So many memories here lost.
This church has been a place of refuge and comfort for a lot of people.
Now a place known for feeding the hungry and helping the poor is counting on the community for help, vowing to rebuild.
We'll move ahead. God always has plans.
The congregation keeping faith in the face of tragedy.
We will rebuild one way or the other. It has to be.
The loss of First Lutheran Church's building to a fire in 2014 was emotionally devastating. We, of course, quickly reminded ourselves that the church is not a building, but the building is not insignificant. It has so many memories for people, having served the community and the congregation since 1924. And we knew that we needed to grieve. And those of us who were in leadership positions tried to make sure that we left room for that. But of course, we could not sit still. So we kept functioning. We did all of the things that we had been doing, just about. We worshiped from a school cafeteria. Our offices were in a congregational church. We ran our food pantry, not missing a week, from an Episcopal church that was just down the street.
I'm Reverend Rosalina Rivera. Most people call me Pastor Rosie. I'm the proud pastor here at First Lutheran Church in Lorain, Ohio. I accepted the call to come to this church in May 2017. So yes, that was in the middle of this build of this building. I had no idea what I would be stepping into, but the team we work with, from the architect to the consultants, all the way down to the electricians, were a joy to work with. They made my role super easy.
First Lutheran is a musical congregation. Martin Luther set music next to theology, and the robust interaction of music and liturgy is a hallmark of many Lutheran churches. Here at First Lutheran, musicians, pastors, and lay people have nurtured that connection throughout the history of the congregation and into the present. And so, when the old church burned in 2014, as the congregation worshiped in temporary spaces for years, and as we planned the new church building, my continual thought was of how to keep the people singing. The primary result of this for the new building was our desire to design an acoustical environment that supported congregational singing.
Worship is at the heart of Christian community. And we made that very clear from the beginning, because the very first person we hired was a liturgical consultant, Robert Habiger.
My name is Robert Habiger, and I work as a liturgical design consultant from Albuquerque, New Mexico. At the time of this project, I was employed by Decker Perry Sabatini, an architectural firm with offices in Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico. I'm currently self-employed, semi-retired, and still continue to work as a liturgical design consultant around the country on a select limited number of projects. I am deeply rooted in liturgy, architecture, artist selection, and religious furniture design. I am known for the promotion of collaborative, participatory design process that supports the faith community and every member of the professional team in a team environment. This presentation will highlight the benefit of such an approach and how a collaborative team process can lead to excellence in design, excellence in art, and the revitalization of a faith community. As the first professional hired through a national search for a liturgical design consultant, I established a collaborative consensus process to guide the project through its next steps. I became a partner with First Lutheran in the selection of other design professionals. Before leading them into the selection of other team members, I sought first to understand their liturgical vision. I did that by attending their Sunday worship services over several months, reading the worship and liturgy requirements that were produced by the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, and meeting with the Liturgy Committee and Building Committee to discuss those issues.
And the second person we hired was an architect, Paul Baraboo, who had a long history of creating beautiful liturgical spaces.
I'm Paul Baraboo. I was the lead designer for First Lutheran Church. I'm one of the architects at Growth Design Group, an architectural firm specializing in religious architecture and located in Cedarburg and Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Growth Design Group provides work nationally. Our projects span from new construction to restoration of existing spaces and building additions. And our work spans all denominations of the Christian community. We've highlighted First Lutheran Church for this discussion of collaborative design because their story is filled with passion. Their journey has been inspiring. Their professional team was assembled from every corner of the country and provided excellence within their own areas of expertise. The craft and skill of the artists was exceptional, and the end result embodies the collaborative journey. Finally, this particular church, despite their loss, were committed to rebuild not only in the shadow of the fire, but in the light of a new day, a day forged by that fire.
Then we found a contractor who happened to be rebuilding a church that had been lost to fire in another part of Ohio. And we were so impressed with what we saw there that he became our builder. And of course, all the while, some of us were working to find an organ builder who could replace the historically significant instrument that we had lost.
Through an extended and detailed search, Paul Fritz of Paul Fritz and Company from Tacoma, Washington, was hired. The new tracker organ, Opus 42, was installed in 2019. It is only the second American organ to be built entirely with sand-cast metal for the pipes. The new organ has 37 stops, distributed over 2 manuals and pedal, suspended key action, and a freestanding case.
On the day our organ arrived, since we were in downtown Lorain, many people from all over surrounding houses in this community came and helped us carry in piece by piece every single box for the organ, signaling to us that it was a good decision to stay in downtown Lorain.
But the design of the space acoustically was not only concerned with the large instrument that is the organ.
What though the tempest round me roars, I hear the truth, it liveth. What though the darkness round...
It also needed to accommodate the smaller, more intimate scaled voice and smaller instruments.
No storm can shake my inmost calm, while to that rock I'm clinging, since love is Lord of heaven and earth. How can I keep from singing?
Every worship space requires an acoustic environment that allows the art of song and music to flourish, whether by instrument, by choir, or by congregational singing. In this case, Given the new organ, the acoustic needed additional attention. That was because of the organ's size. It necessitated a substantial volume, large in comparison to the footprint of the seating area. The church selected Richard Boner of BAI, a firm located in Austin, Texas, specializing in both acoustic design and audiovisual technology. As an early member of the design team, Richard's insight helped shape a space where the spoken word would be intelligible and where singing and organ could thrive.
As you can probably hear, the acoustics in this space are amazing for music, especially congregational singing and music concerts, which we had once a month prior to the pandemic. We have also have a state-of-the-art sound system, all controlled by a single iPad, which allows our sound technicians to sit anywhere in the worship space with their families to run the sound system smoothly during worship.
Much attention was given to providing reflection, diffusion, and clarity of sound, and the result is spectacular. As the director of music, I can easily lead singing with just my voice, and the sound of a full congregation singing in here makes my heart jump into my throat. But of course, I most often lead the singing with the organ. A long history in this congregation too, and the instrument that burned was an instrument of historical importance as well as great beauty. The new organ, built by Paul Fritz, benefits from the acoustical environment of the space as well. Both the organ builder and the acoustical consultant were part of the design team from the beginning. The organ's beauty of tone is matched by the beauty of form and detail, reflecting the goal of the building committee to make art an important element of the worship space.
Each professional contributed valuable insights into the final design. The church representatives provided the critical clarifications of goals and objectives to be met. Their feedback had major impacts into site selection, building orientation, building size, building features, and artisan involvements.
We had a small committee of 7 or 8 people. But many, many more people were involved. And that planning involved a visioning process, one that included a very large number of the worshiping congregation. Just about every Sunday for a while, we would have forums after worship services to keep people informed and also to get their input each step of the way. And from that, we created a vision for a building that would be open and flexible and beautiful, and also be able to help us continue ministering with our strengths, which happen to be worship, music, and service to the neighborhood.
The key to a collaborative process, one that engages the worshiping community and liturgical leaders, and a process that benefits from each profession's discipline, is to begin with listening to each other. The design team held a visioning workshop with the congregation and with Robert Habinger, who had already started liturgical visioning with the congregation. This visioning workshop was held before we even started putting a pencil to paper. That session planted seeds within the design team by giving voice to the members and leaders, helping us all to understand their hopes and visions for the continuation of their ministries in a new home, and for the celebration of their liturgy within a worship space. They voiced their ministry needs and their hopes for a new place of sacrament, prayer, and song. The same week of the visioning workshop, the entire design team met in Lorain to hold a design charrette, that is, a real-time design session with all the stakeholders present and able to shape the space in one collaborative session. Architects, liturgical consultants, acoustic and AV designers, organ builders and contractors, and even key church leaders and people connected at the church to the liturgy. Together, in 2 days, we shared input and set the foundation for the architecture for this house of prayer. Together, we were able to address any challenges up front that might pose problems for allowing the liturgy and music to excel.
I will never forget the privilege of sitting with those gifted professionals at the charrette, where the plans were put into action to fulfill the vision that the congregation had made.
Of course, beyond the charrette, all of the members of the design team continued to collaborate. The building committee met to review design progress, making decisions that would help all of us begin and continue to form to their dreams. Sometimes we met in person, other times by internet, but together, collaboratively, the hopes and prayers of the congregation took shape. Part of the consideration for the worship space was not only the aesthetic of the space, that is, the architecture. Robert Habinger identified 3 central themes that would guide us liturgically into creating the architecture of the worship.
Every faith community requires a place to gather for worship and devotion. While the 2020 coronavirus pandemic has created dramatic shifts in in-person worship, this does not diminish now or in the future the need for a place designed for worship and devotion, a place that beckons and embraces each of us to move beyond the ordinary into the extraordinary, the sacred. Of the 3 themes, the encounter theme is the most critical regarding the design of a worship space. At the most basic level, it is how the sacraments are revealed in the worship environment. At an even deeper level, the encounter theme requires people to use all their senses in worship. This sensory contribution creates the ability to move a person to an extraordinary experience. The encounter theme helps us to remember to create worship spaces that are inclusive rather than exclusive. The encounter theme unites us to worship in a physical and spiritual way. The environment theme relates to the design of the worship setting and its organization. Along with developing the plan, the environment theme is concerned with the placement of liturgical furniture, appointments, materials that are used, and how the sound system and lighting function to support the liturgy. The environment theme has the ability and the power to connect us both physically and emotionally to the worship space. Along with the worship space, the environment theme includes the entire building and site. Design considerations were given to a congregate's experience from home to worship.
The original site was hardly large enough for the original multi-story building, 22,000 square feet of building on 3 levels. We advised the owner that while the original site could be reused, a larger site would allow every ministry of the congregation to be provided on 1 level, fully accessible to members and fully invitational to the community, easily accessed by everyone involved in the church's ministries. The leadership was determined to stay in the heart of Lorain, where there was the greatest need for their outreach ministries. Luckily, a property was available that had been a parking lot for a public school which had recently relocated. This site was just kitty corner from the burned church property. This new site was large enough for the entire building, all 22,000 square feet, to be provided on 1 level. And it was big enough to allow for parking as well. The site provided the church with great visibility and wonderful vehicular and pedestrian access.
One of the first things that people say as they enter our space is how accessible and open it is. It's very inviting and quite stunning to see our cupola, which will soon have some artwork in it.
A congregant arrives to a unified parking lot and then moves through a main building entrance into a large central gathering space. Larger than traditional narthex, it is a place where congregants gather before and after a service to interact with each other, to connect with friends, and to discover other people's hopes, dreams, and spiritual needs. The gathering room provides access to the worship environment, offices, fellowship hall, ministry, outreach rooms, and the education wing. The narthex gathering room is designed to invite all people to the church. The design of the gathering room is in keeping with the conviction that all people are welcome to this place. It is a transitional space that builds a sense of community, facilitates hospitality, and sends forth the assembly to the world. At the south end of the room, overlooking the outdoor meditation vigil garden, is a full-height glass wall. At the inside, central to the glass wall, is a floor-mounted cross. The cross is sized for maximum visibility and presence to greet each person who enters and to emphatically state that it is a house of prayer. The transparent wall allows passers at the street to view into the church building, reinforcing the notion that everyone is welcomed. The cross was designed to accommodate a processional cross that was made for First Lutheran by Zion Lutheran Church in Valley City, Ohio, just months after the fire. The larger cross is designed to embrace the processional cross. The cross is intentionally placed in the gathering space to symbolize that Christ's presence in the world is not limited to the worship space. 10 art glass panels were provided by the stained glass artist to be inserted into the larger cross. The art glass catches the light streaming through the south windows to give animation and greater attention to the cross. I was the designer of the larger cross with fabrication by Abo Omerabgal of Omerabgal, Germany. The mystery theme denotes the spiritual connections between us and God. Mystery is first understood as a sense of awe that is present. This experience of wonder is derived from the impression of something extraordinary that takes us out of our normal everyday experience. The mystery theme connects us to a worship space through a spiritual and emotional experience. After multiple conversations with the liturgy and building committees, a clear set of liturgical design principles that were to be followed was set. These included: the design was to follow the published Evangelical Lutheran Church in America guidelines on worship and liturgy. The design was to especially be concerned about the placement of the new tracker organ because it would have a significant visual impact in the worship space itself. The design should provide flexibility in worshiping rites and rituals. The design should recognize the liturgical seasons, and the design should stress the importance of the entire worshiping assembly. Let us now examine how these three overriding liturgical design themes impacted the worship space at First Lutheran. The worship space is regarded as a temple for the people of God. Except for the font, tracker organ, and choir risers, everything else is movable in this worship space.
The space I love the most, of course, is where I'm standing, in our beautiful sanctuary. In our tradition, baptism is central to our faith, so it is fitting that it is centrally located at the entrance of our worship space. We receive lots of compliments, especially from kids who are excited to be able to place their hands on the running water of the font.
There is no front to the room, but rather multiple focus points. This points to the vitality of Christian worship that meets the needs of the present-day congregation while remaining open to many future uses.
Another distinctive aspect of the worship space is its flexible design. Except for the organ and the font, everything in it is movable. This has benefits both for liturgy and for other events in the room. For liturgy, we highlight the seasons of the church year by rearranging the space. While we have about 4 standard arrangements, the possibilities are endless. This reconfiguring helps people to see the space anew, to capture the uplift of its beauty once again. One season we might face the stained glass windows, and another we might face the fabric art. And then another season we might face each other, each of these focal points providing a window into the divine.
6 primary worship arrangements were developed, Each offer the prospect to enhance a particular liturgical season and sacramental rite. There are 4 central themed seating arrangements, 2 circular and 2 antiphonal. In each of the 4 concepts, the placement of the altar table and pulpit varies. This offers the liturgy team the ability to adjust the environment for each liturgical season and for sacramental rites and rituals. The central plan gives greater spiritual significance to specific liturgical seasons, such as Advent, Christmas time, Lent, Easter, and Pentecost. This is accomplished because the central plan creates a place where everyone is present to each other, thus increasing the visual and oral presences, offering a greater sense of intimacy and inclusiveness. The sacraments are encountered in the midst of the assembly. In the elongated antiphonal seating arrangement, a funeral casket or urn can be placed in the middle of a triangulation of table, pulpit, and font, thus giving honor to the deceased and linking the spiritual and sacramental significance of communion, God's Word, and baptism. The semicircular seating arrangement is a common design concept seen in many church environments. It provides a spiritually comfortable and peaceful setting in gathering around table and word. This seating plan offers a greater sense of isolation for congregants, thus offering individuals time for inward reflection of the Word. This seating arrangement was conceived primarily for ordinary time. The processional seating arrangement accommodates a wedding party, a family's typical expectation for this rite. Because of the inherent flexibility of the space, the processional plan can be flipped to have the seating face the organ for a concert.
The design of the worship space itself is unique in that we are able to have many different seating arrangements in here. We use both traditional benches for those who prefer pews, single chairs, and we also have chairs with armrest for our older members with mobility issues. The beautiful platform that I'm standing on, we use and is movable in this space, which allows us to have worship all around the entire space.
The flexibility of the furniture also has benefits for concerts, which are an important outreach of the congregation. We can now set up the seating to face the organ for recitals, which was impossible to do in the old church. We have surrounded a small chamber ensemble for a concert and been surrounded by a college choir. We have set up the chancel platform as a stage for a musical drama and faced the choir loft to hear a professional choir.
3 challenges were encountered architecturally. The first of these was presented by the flexible seating desired by the Liturgical Design Committee. As Robert indicated, only the font, the organ, and the choir area would be permanently placed. It may not be immediately evident, but a flexible seating arrangement means that the visual focus of worship is ever-changing. Not only does that require special design of an altar platform, a movable platform, but the sound system, any projection system, and any spotlighting has to be similarly flexible. And the architectural backdrop for the altar platform would always be different. Our solution to assist with flexibility came with the design of a hanging lattice, 3 overlapping metal circles within an overlay of wood crosses. Spotlighting on the lattice could be designed to light multiple focal points within the room, all choreographed with a dimming system to accentuate each liturgical arrangement. The sound system was similarly designed for each of the main liturgical arrangements, and the architectural interiors were designed with opportunities for multiple potential AV projectable surfaces. A second challenge. The volume of the room necessitated by the organ was immense. Now that's perfect for an understanding of grandeur and transcendence within the space, but it is a challenge for immanence and human intimacy. The solution was to use the architectural interiors in collaboration with the arts to temper the volume and engage the individual worshiper. The light lattice helped pull down the plane of the ceiling as did pendant lighting at the periphery. The side walls of the worship were horizontally striated, allowing stained glass, and the surfaces that would be used for diffusion and AV projection, and art, and the liturgical furnishings to layer the side walls so that the expanse of the room required by the organ could be more scaled to the human and intimate.
An art committee was established and met periodically throughout the project process. Representatives of the building committee were on the art committee so as to make sure the decisions made were aligned with the goals and objectives of the project.
From stained glass windows, to the hand-carved liturgical furniture, to the fabric art, to the water flowing on the font, to the clear windows with a view of nature, the space was designed to raise our thoughts and feelings to the divine through beauty.
After workshops on differences between religious and liturgical art and the qualities and appropriateness of art for the worship space and liturgy, the art committee established the following goals. New art is not to be replications of what was lost from the fire, nor should it be art that is acquired from a catalog. Artists need to consider who they are. Therefore, new art should provide a relationship to the place and community that First Lutheran is located. Art should exhibit honesty and genuineness, showing the handcraftedness of the artist. Art must be appropriate for the worship space and the liturgy. New art, for this time in the life of this faith community, should communicate a retrospective sense of the past, a prospective sense of the future, and meet the immediate needs of First Lutheran. The font is a bronze vessel that sits prominently at the main entrance to the worship space as a constant reminder that it is through baptism that we enter the church. Abundant water represents God's abundant grace and blessings. The dangerous amount of water symbolizes our union with Christ's death and resurrection through the waters of baptism. The vessel's womb-like shape symbolizes our rebirth through baptism. For liturgy, water is one of the primary symbols of worship. To touch the water is to ask for God's blessings. Because of the water flowing down all the sides of this font, a person with limited mobility or in a wheelchair can allow the water to touch them simply by placing their hand or arm at the font's side, thus experiencing their own personal encounter with God in this faith community. The main vessel for the font was created and fabricated by Jordan Warner of Warner Sculpture Studio in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Jordan is a fellow ACLS member. The altar table is designed as a banquet table, a symbol of eating and celebration. Ornately carved and made of fine-grained reddish-colored mahogany wood, the table, along with the rest of the liturgical furniture, stands out to establish a distinct appearance and encounter with the sacred, as well as to convey connections to past, present, and future. The altar and pulpit use of wood carving and intricate detailing give the visual charisma that the worship environment deserves. The pulpit, place for reading of the Word, is a place of proclamation. It is designed as an elegant standing reading desk. The pulpit creates its own liturgical center and has a scale appropriate to the scale of the worship space and the altar table. The pulpit is designed to allow any member of the assembly to read and encounter the Word. The bookrest can be raised or lowered to accommodate people with different abilities. Liturgical furniture appointments include a music lectern, Paschal candle holder, processional candlesticks, Advent wreath holder, flower stands, and liturgical tables. They were designed to match to the altar table and pulpit. Their fine craftsmanship and beauty beckons one to touch the furnishings. I was the designer of the liturgical furniture, with fabrication and wood carving accomplished by Albo Oberammergau of Oberammergau, Germany. Johannes Abel is an ACLS member. Since the Middle Ages, stained glass has been used to convey a sense of mystery and God's presence to a faith community. At First Lutheran, their prominent stained glass window is placed opposite to the tracker organ. The placement serves to help anchor the worship space with the advantage of southern sunlight that gives life to the window. The abstract nature of the window is meant to point people to God without attempting to depict God directly. The design is intended to inspire, uplift, and encourage worshipers while allowing for a multiplicity of interpretations and meaning. Woven among the colors and shapes are suggestions of community, service, celebration, symbols of earth, water, and fire, and the three persons of the Trinity. Along with this large stained glass window are 8 smaller windows high on the east wall that echo the celebratory shapes and colors of this larger window. The stained glass windows were designed, fabricated, and installed by Kessler Studios of Loveland, Ohio. Cindy Kessler is an ACLS member. Cindy used hand-blown glass from Germany and small clear glass jewels to give the window the deeper colors and extra sparkle that you see. 16 bas-relief copper panels adorn the main entrance doors into the worship space. The commissioning of this art was a major connection to the previous church in that the copper used for the art came from the copper organ pipes recovered from the fire. Each panel represents a biblical story, primary symbols of water, wine, bread, and fire, and images of Christ's life. Many of the images were inspired from symbols in the original stained glass windows that were lost in the fire. The panels were designed and fabricated by Michael Bendel of Delphos, Ohio. An art element titled the liturgical year represents the liturgical seasons in a series of quilted fabric panels that hang opposite the font when entering the worship space. The liturgical seasons are read from left to right. Quilted as 7 fabric pieces in a vertical panel, each quilted strip then represents a week in the liturgical year. Significant colors of the liturgical year, such as the deep royal blue of Advent, yellow, white, and gold of Easter, and the red and Pentecost, give a rhythm to the liturgical year and offers a congregant the opportunity to encounter the liturgical seasons in a deeper, more meaningful way. Feast days are inserted as white fabric elements occurring throughout the year to give greater animation to the art piece during ordinary time. Sandra Needing of Vermilion, Ohio, was a quilter for the art element. She is a local fabric artist who also made all the church pyramids.
From stained glass windows, to the hand-carved liturgical furniture, to the fabric art, to the water flowing on the font, to the clear windows with a view of nature, the space was designed to raise our thoughts and feelings to the divine through beauty. And in fact, I think one of the great successes of this space is that it feels sacred and modern at the same time.
Since we are in downtown Lorain area, we do get approached by many organizations seeking to use our building for events and meetings. We've allowed our building to be used by Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, and a few civil organizations, and have already hosted many wedding receptions and baby showers. The feedback we receive from those using our building is how much they love our space, how accessible it is, and of course, the simplistic beauty of the structure of this building.
And I am still in awe of how well the building, the finished product, really fulfills that vision. That's good. And forever grateful to the professionals, the committees, and the congregation for their hard work to make it a reality.
Today, they are on the home stretch to the next chapter. This Sunday, they will worship here for the first time.
The way it drew our congregation together, I think it's made us a very stronger church.
The heart and soul of First Lutheran, the people, in helping the homeless, have always reached beyond the walls anyway. These Christians taking their cue still from Christ.
As a congregation, we have prayed for that arsonist too.
Sunday, no doubt gratitude will grace the prayers that rise up for the first time from Lorain First Lutheran Church. Take two.
We wanted people to know that this is a staple within this community, and it's been here since 1899, and we're not going anywhere.
The care and thought that went into this worship space are evident to all who enter and are a continual inspiration to those of us who worship here.
I am proud to have served as liturgical design consultant and as a partner with First Lutheran and the entire project team on this project. It gives me great joy and hope to see the completion of a project that supports and exemplifies principles of worship and liturgy. First Lutheran's church building is a place that remembers the past. It is perfectly suited for the present and can be easily adapted to meet future demands. What has been created is a place of beauty, a place to welcome all, a place to nourish one's soul.
I am very proud to say that we are more than just a church within this community. We are a beacon of hope and light to many and a place of refuge for others. And I am very proud to be the pastor serving in this congregation, and I know that this church will be here for many years to come.
The overall success of the design team, of every professional hired by the church, and every leader and member within the congregation is evident in the way the worship space delights the soul with liturgical and artistic inspiration. The space is beautiful, and it is a functional piece of architecture. But of course, the journey to create the architecture was not just about building a church. It was about being the church. It was about walking together from the ashes of the past toward the fire of spirit for the future. This is the building, and this is the church.
A church rising from the ashes after arson claimed not only a sanctuary, but an entire congregation's peace of mind as 90 years worth of memories went up in smoke.
It was hard. Yeah, it was hard.
That was 2014. While the flames destroyed this church, it did not break the spirits of the faithful who vowed to rebuild.
It's been 168 weeks since we worshiped on a lawn right across the street after the fire.
This day a symbol of determination, dedication, and prayers answered for a community who through their tears never lost faith. Pieces of the past on display, an organ pipe that survived the flames now turned into new works of art for a church family that faced the worst together. Their spirit of faith is attracting members old and new.
That to me is what drew me to this congregation, the resiliency, the love and compassion that the people of this congregation have.
Because as the pastor reminded this congregation, church is not about a building, but the people inside and the praise and devotion they hold in their hearts.
In Lorraine, Maya Balai, Fox 8 News.